Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Me's My Passion YouTube, pretty much about all things women's football. And yes, we are revamped. We have lifted the face off of the World Cup thematics to what will essentially be the new facelift of the channel. I don't know, maybe for the season or maybe for the long term future, and we'll see how we just go about it. So let me know what you think of the intro, what you think of the new designs and whatnot. And yeah, this is pretty much the new updated version of He's My Passion, I guess you can say 2.0 or whatever, but it's still the same old channel, the same old things. Again, the premier channel for all things women's football. And today we're gonna have a few little news stories that I would just like to keep you up on here. Of course, there are going to be two of these news stories that will be following up on the whole debacle surrounding Luis Rubiales, the RFEF, Jenny Hermoso, and that. So those will be the first that we jump into. Then there'll be just one more extra little story which I do think harbors a lot of interest, and I felt it would be really awesome to bring it to you here, even though it is not a very good story to talk about, even though I just use the word awesome. So just a little heads up there. But without further ado, this intro has really dragged already as much as it has. Let us go into the first story here of today here, where Jorge Vilda, the last man standing of the Rubiales stands here. He has released a statement, and pretty much this is him just trying to save face here, as his statement read, quote, "I regret deeply that the victory of Spanish women's football has been harmed by the inappropriate behavior that our until now top leader Luis Rubiales has carried out and that he himself has recognized. There is no doubt that if it is unacceptable and does not reflect at all the principles and values that I defend in my life, in sport in general and in football in particular, I condemn without doubt any macho attitude which should be far from an advanced and developed society. A clearly undesirable climate has been generated far from what should have been a great celebration of Spanish sport and women's sport. I reiterate my unwavering commitment to promoting a sport that is a model of equality and respect in our society." Now, obviously, this comment does come off the back of the whole drama coming from Luis Rubiales being suspended for 90 days by FIFA from all football activities, in addition to Vilda's own technical staff stepping down in solidarity with Jenny Hermoso here. And as much as it does seem that he's trying to save face and seem sympathetic to the cause, this is pretty much a nothing statement in my opinion. This a non-apology, it's a hollow apology, because really you haven't really mentioned the situation, you haven't really identified where the problems are. You're just simply coming out to try and look good, try to just save face, like I've been saying here, and you're not actually addressing the situation at hand here. You haven't mentioned the incident at all in the statement, you haven't even tried to allude to it. You're just talking about condemning macho attitude, when yet you're still there as the head coach of the Spanish women's team, and you have been identified by the players themselves as one of the main problems of the system at the moment. So personally, for me, I'm not buying this apology. He's just trying to, again, save face, look good in front of the media, and trying to pretty much perform surgery on his public relations and his public image at the moment. But I don't think anyone's falling for it. So I don't know, take that as you will in terms of the statement, but personally, these are my thoughts on it. I don't think it's really worthwhile. But again, he's the last man standing here of the Rubiales regime here. There is no one else pretty much standing alongside him, and it's a matter of time before we see what stance he takes. I don't know, maybe he's waiting for Rubiales to make a move or to come back or something, but as it stands, he's the last man standing there, and we'll just see where it takes us with Vilda and his PR here. But anyway, moving on to the next story, and it's still sticking with the whole debacle of the RFEF and Andreu Camps. I don't know, it's Camps or Campos, because Google is giving me two different names here. But regardless of that, the Secretary General of the RFEF today came out threatening bloody murder against the movement here that the Spanish women's team have garnered by threatening to withdraw Spanish teams from the Champions League, the Europa League, and the Conference League in solidarity with Rubiales essentially here. And I don't know about him, but I don't know if he's realized that La Liga, as it stands right now, it's not the beast that it used to be. right now the shoulders of Real Madrid and Barcelona, primarily Real Madrid, if we're being honest here, are carrying the weight of the load. They're the only things that are keeping that league relevant, in my opinion, as an outsider looking in. And for him to threaten that, I do not think that is going to be something that lands well with any of the teams who are going to be participating provisionally as it stands here with these competitions. And I really think that's just a really desperate move, and it shows your desperation. And I think it really goes to show the level of animosity as well as fragility to the ego that the likes of Campbell here have suffered. Because if you're willing to stoop so low as to just essentially take out the whole RFEF out of UEFA just to stand alongside slash in solidarity with Rubiales, who already has been accused and has been found to be pretty much guilty in the court of public opinion of doing these things like sexual harassment towards Jenny Hermoso, then I don't know. That's a huge indictment on the current structures and powerful figures who are currently running the RFEF. Pretty much the entire federation is rotten to the core if that's the extent or the level that they want to take things. But of course, this request has already been denied by UEFA. I don't know if it's on the back of hearing his threat or if he actually went through with it. But if he did actually go through with it, then wow, that is something else in my opinion then. And I don't know where the RFEF are going to go from here, but I do think that these men who are in this kind of position of power to make these kinds of big decisions, they all need to be removed from the RFEF because they're essentially killing the federation just to stand by someone who's just essentially a sexual harasser, a macho guy, a mafioso, whatever you want to describe it. And yeah, it's crazy. It's really crazy. But yeah, let me know what you think about the situation here surrounding the RFEF, not only with regarding to Vilda's public statement that he released or Campbell's threats here, because I don't think it's gonna land the way that he wants it to land. But anyway, and now moving away from sunny Spain to dreary England. Well, I guess given the context and situations, they're both very dreary here, but that's besides the point. There is some very shocking breaking news that has broken in the last 24 hours as the entire management committee of the Women's National League have resigned on the back of some issues that they face with regards to kicking off their season on the same day as the Women's World Cup final here. Now, the National League here is essentially, just to give it a comparison to the men's league, it's like the championship all the way down to the National League on the men's side. So essentially the FA, the English FA, they run those leagues, especially on the women's side here. And then obviously the Women's Super League is run by the FA currently, but they are looking to transition it over to the Premier League, I guess for the sake of parity. So essentially the Women's Super League, which is the women's equivalent of the Premier League, they start on a later date than the rest of the other national leagues in the women's division in England here. Now, these other leagues have an agreement that they will kick off their seasons on the third Sunday of August every season. They did that last season, and the plan was to do it this season. But of course, given that the Three Lions made the final, you definitely think that an exception would need to be made here, especially with fans themselves launching a petition for these dates to be moved so that they can watch and support the Three Lionesses, which eventually the board did acquiesce to, but it was very reluctantly here because after that pretty much led to this resignation that they have unanimously agreed to. And this change, even though it was to acquiesce to the fans' demands and to give them an opportunity to watch the Three Lionesses compete in their first ever World Cup final, were eventually granted, it was pretty much the straw that broke the camel's back here, off the back of what have been described as various and complex issues that the committee faced in running the league here, such as the inability to get assistance with volunteer roles, I'm guessing such as linesmen, fourth officials, and the likes, especially on an unpaid basis, which is understandable given that the National League doesn't have the best of resources, especially financially, to compensate these people. But at the same time, you understand from the person's perspective, why would you want to quote unquote waste your afternoon when you could be doing something else, especially if you're going to be paid for that situation, or you just want to rest from a very long week of work? those kinds of situations are very valid reasons to not go. And yes, it's supposed to be there to try and support the cause and to help grow women's football on a holistic level and not just on the Super League level. But those are the kinds of challenges that the league were facing, and eventually it did lead to the board resigning within the past 24 hours here. And the situation is pretty much ongoing. The FA have stepped in to take over control of the league here, as they pretty much tried to steady the ship, which was pretty much on its way to sinking here. So it is definitely a dire moment in women's football in England here, as their national league kind of faces an uncertain future here. But hopefully the issue can be resolved. I don't know if that means by the FA handing over the Super League over to the Premier League. I think it will help in the sense that you then have more resources to distribute across the other divisions. But I think at the same time, for the FA, the Women's Super League is pretty much their golden egg right now, in the sense that they want to nurture this thing. And I guess given how much more publicity women's football is getting in general, and especially in England off the back of the Three Lionesses efforts at the World Cup, this might be something that they don't want to give up so quickly or so soon. I don't know, those are just my thoughts on it. But those are the three main stories here that I had to just come on here on YouTube and just share with you all. Obviously, all three of these stories are ongoing. The last one here that I've given you, it is a fresh one, but the first two, of course, they're just continuations of a story that we've been covering since last week. And just a little bit of I don't know if it's funny, but I guess it's funny in a way, but in a very sordid way. In the continuing saga of Jenny Hermosa versus the RFEF. It also broke today that the mother of Luis Rubiales, today she went into a church and locked herself away and went on a hunger strike here until Jenny Hermoso, quote unquote, came out to speak the truth. And pretty much she's a support of her son here. And wow, that was just a wow moment when I was reading that. I don't know how to think about that, what to think of it. I guess it's a mother doing her best to support her child, but then, you then get the other part of you saying like, oh, but she's also a woman, she should understand these things, etc, etc. But then again, she's a mother to this guy, and yeah, it's a messy situation. I'm going to reserve judgment on that last bit there regarding Rubiales' mother. So yeah, please leave your thoughts, if you have any, on that story and all these stories that I've covered here today in the comments below. And make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video, where I'll be looking through some transfers that have gone by that you may or may not have known about, especially coming off the back of some very strong World Cup performances that have earned some good players some very big moves. So stay tuned to that, and I'll see you in the next one.